intelligence operative like Lee Oswald, who wasn't an expert shot, to go kill the president? You know, it's just, it doesn't make sense. Okay, and of course, the thing that probably makes the least sense in all of this is the so-called magic bullet. And nothing more controversial in this case than the single bullet theory. It's been debated, derided over and over again. Most Americans have come to understand its improbability. Yet again, we have to point out, it is the linchpin of any Oswald alone theory. You cannot have Oswald alone. You cannot have a lone shooter without this. Okay? And this is what you've got. You've got a bullet, CE-399. It's in almost perfect condition, despite the fact it created supposedly 7 wounds in 2 different people, Kennedy and Conley in the front seat. It went through dense bones, and yet it came out in practically perfect condition. In fact, I think okay, we're not going to get to that yet. We're going to hold on that. So, you know, you could ask, and I always bring this up in my class. Ryan, my son, brings it up all the time too. The whole deer hunter thing. Like, you can ask any college student that's a deer hunter and have them take a look at that bullet and say, "Wait, did you ever pull out a bullet from a deer that looked like that after you shot it in perfect condition?" No. There's good evidence to suggest that, you know, there's even some new things that came out that it's complicated, but there's some things that come out that, you know, when a bullet's recovered, they put everybody that handles it, and people know police work, they're always initialed. The CE-399 that's in the National Archives is missing initials of the people that handle the chain of possession, which probably means there's a good chance it might have been planted in the first place. It may not be the same bullet they found. I don't know. Okay? Well, here's the Zapruder film. Let's go through it. You've probably seen it before. This is slow motion. But again, it came out, whole movie, The Assassination. And this, of course, is what the president, he goes behind the Stemmons Freeway sign, and then things start to happen. And I want to speak to some inconsistencies here. This is slow-mo. Now, if he comes outside the fence, he's obviously been hit in the throat. Was it from the front or the behind? The Warren Commission says it was in front. I don't think so, but okay. But you'll notice the guy in the front seat is starting to turn around. He has not been hit yet. John Conley, the governor, he turns around, he looks, and then it becomes obvious that he's hit later on. Conley would say that, at least initially. I wasn't hit by the same bullet. If John Conley wasn't hit by the same bullet, then you've got no lone magic bullet theory. Of course, and then the close-up of the headshot. There's things about that. Obviously, the head snap, you can't change that. That his head seems to go violently back to the left. You see that blob there. That is something that I think is inconsistent. That makes me, and a lot of folks think, among other things, that maybe this thing had been tampered with too. We know the CIA had their hands on this thing the day of the assassination. That is totally inconsistent with anything in terms of what the Kennedy's wounds looked like. There was no big blob missing on the side of his head. Like, was this something that was kind of airbrushed, tampered? I don't have time to get into all that. I'll be here all night, but maybe anyway. But this is slide frame 238. Here again, if Oswald acted alone and took the shot, if the single bullet theory has to have JFK hit by the bullet he's been hit by right now, and John Conley has to be hit too. Guess what? Conley's looking around like nothing's happened here, just like he said. Unless he's got some delayed reaction. When you get hit, you don't usually get a delayed reaction. Or JFK's hands are faster than Superman's, right? He's, faster than a speeding bullet. Because if he's reacted, that bullet should have hit John Conley. That doesn't add up. Okay? And there again, more CE-399. So where do we get this from? Just a little background. Where did this whole single bullet theory happen? Of course, it was found, the bullet was supposedly found in near perfect condition on a stretcher in Parkland Hospital. There was no chain of possession even on that. And then, who came up? Well, Arlen Specter is his name. He was a junior counsel for the Ward Commission. And they had a big problem. I mean, if you go back to the, we'll take a quick trip back to our diagram here. Whoa. Okay. There's a guy at the base of the street. You can't see, he's not listed here, but right here by the triple underpass. His name is James Tay. He was hit by either a bullet fragment or a piece of cement from a fly. Barely wounded it at all, just a scratch on him, but he'd obviously been hit. The police saw it. So, you know, J. Edgar Hoover's got, first of all, we got 3 shots. We're good. We got one shot hitting Kennedy in the throat, 1 shot hitting Conley in the fatal head wound. Now we got a problem. Now we got another guy hit. It's at that point the Warren Commission, if they were really consistent about what they were supposed to be doing, finding the truth about the Kennedy assassination, they say, wait a minute, we got something else going on here. They don't. They tell Arlen Specter, go watch this Zapruder film and you figure it out. That's where we got this magic bullet. There was no consensus. Nobody in the Warren Commission even believed it. It was a piece of crap that Arlen Specter came up with something. That's basically what it amounted to, and it still stands as a linchpin of any lone assassin theory. Okay, move back. Trying to move as fast as I can. You know, just the number of grams that were missing, like just 2 grams. Like, you know, do you know what a gram is? So like, the bullet weighed 161 grams, and there was like 2 grams missing. Totally inconsistent. This pathologist said there's no way that could happen. Named Milton Helper. Again, the Cyril Weck, great guy, one of the top pathologists in the country. He's still alive. He's going to speak at my conference in the spring. You know, he basically said, if you could do this 1,000 times and come up one time where this would all work, like suggest, I would be quiet. He's never been quiet for 54 years. He should have been the one that did the autopsy. He wasn't allowed to do so. Okay, well, there was a bullet hole right in the middle of Kennedy's back, but the Warren Commission said the shot went through his throat from behind. But here we go. We got Oswald 6 floors up. You're going to hit, there's a bullet hole in the middle of the back. The Warren Commission changed that around and said, no, we went through the throat from the back. Okay? You know, so there we go. We got a whole different angle there. The black line represents the coat line. The other line represents what would have probably had happened if they were really telling the truth about the whole thing. Then what happened, right? This is a shot immediately after the assassination. Well, where are people running? They are running towards the grassy knoll. Okay? They are not running towards the Texas School of Public, including cops. People, you see them, you can't see that well, but hitting the wrong button again. There's a cop, and the guy's in the motorcycle somewhere along here, going to come up, maybe not at this point. And there's this guy, suspicious guy. Be aware of the guys that are not doing nothing. Okay? And a close-up will reveal there was a walkie-talkie sticking out of his back pocket. And your average American did not own a walkie-talkie in 1963. Some wonder, the people that are not running around being crazy, what are they up to? Just another mystery. Okay? Acoustical evidence suggested shots came from the front. I don't have time to get into that. I mean, this is one more thing. I'm going to try to keep moving here. And then you got a question, well, did Oswald act alone at all? I mean, anywhere from 75 to 90 seconds after shots were fired, Oswald was seen, and it might even have been sooner than that, calmly drinking a Coke in a Coke room. Kennedy's motorcade was supposed to be there at 12:15. Oswald was as late as 12:10, was not seen up there. I mean, what was he going to do? Lounging around? Was he going to be late for the assassination? You know, did he just know that the motorcade was going to be late, or did he decide at the last minute, hey, they're going to go shoot the president? You know, you can get cynical about this stuff. Well, who was Lee Harvey Oswald? That's one of the great mysteries and questions. Boy, I'm just moving along fast here. Move up a page. And just, you know, was he a lone nut, pro-Marxist, like they characterize him, or something more? What do we know about Oswald? Well, as a young man, he joins the United States Marine Corps as a teenager. Then he suddenly gets a quick discharge. He gave an excuse to the Marines. You don't get out of the Marines that easy, but he did for some reason. He told the Marine Corps that a can dropped and hit his mother on the head. Okay, that's a good excuse. I don't buy that one. But all of a sudden, he gets a quick discharge. He gets a visa. He's going to the Soviet Union, the most closed society in the world, our arch enemies. And he's jetting off, or jetting might not be the right word. I mean, he's got $200 in his bank account, and it's a $1,200 trip. $1,200 would be like $12,000. How does Oswald get the money to go to Russia? There are all sorts of questions about that. He gets to Russia, and then, well, he's going to defect. So he goes to the embassy, tells the people at the embassy, you know, I'm going to defect to the Soviet Union. But he goes on a weekend. Well, the embassy told him, well, sir, we don't do defections on weekends. So you got to come back. Did Oswald know that? Well, he never came back. He never defected. He hung out in the Soviet Union for a couple of years. He marries a Russian wife who was, in fact, had an uncle who was a KGB colonel named Marina Oswald, who's still today. Suddenly, he's ready to go back to the United States. Although he's pulled all this crap, and there's a whole lot of other things here that I'm skipping over too about Oswald. But how does all of a sudden a guy who nearly defects, or does, what do you want to call it, a quasi-defection, suddenly get to come back to the United States, no questions asked? They even paid for his trip to get back. And then it's the height of the Cold War when the United States knew nothing about what was going on in the Soviet Union. We did not have satellites. This is like 59, 60, 61, 62. So the CIA is going to be all over that, right? They're going to debrief Oswald. No, they said they'd never. No, we don't know who this guy is. I'm thinking they debriefed. Again, there's a lot of things there about Oswald and his trip to the Soviet Union. And maybe the best answer about that was, well, Oswald wasn't the only guy that did that. There were others that kind of had that same thing, military guy, suddenly drops out, suddenly defects to the Soviet Union for a few years, then he comes back. I think there's a real good evidence to suggest he was part of some fake defector program sent by some intelligence community, whether it's the Naval Intelligence, CIA, whatever. Because after all, just general information about the Soviet Union in 1961, 62 would be great. We didn't know anything. So maybe that's all Oswald's mission was, if he was in fact an intelligence operative of some sort. Okay? So he comes to New York, back to the United States. And again, this is all this, again, from a time standpoint, man, I'm already getting there. So I'm going to try to, the whole New Orleans thing is based on the Jim Garrison, Oliver Stone movie. I'm sure many of you watched that. And obviously Oswald's activities in New Orleans in the summer of 1963 are suspicious, mainly based upon the fact what he was doing, portraying again to be pro-Marxist, pro-Castro, handing out leaflets, fair play for Cuba. And at the same time, he's connected to all these right-wing anti-communists like Guy Bannister, Clay Shaw, who was later found to be a CIA contract agent, and years later, Dave Ferry. That just, it would be akin to Oswald associated with these guys and doing what he did would be almost like Jesse Jackson hanging out with Jesse Jackson and David Duke hanging out together. This doesn't add up. Something else is going on here in New Orleans. What is it in terms of connection to the assassination? I don't know. Were these guys, were they setting up Oswald? Was there something going on here in terms of a frame job eventually? I don't know. I think Oswald was involved in low-level intelligence activities in New Orleans. I think that's who he was. But at some point, did he get co-opted into something bigger? Maybe. Okay? Of course, this is more about the whole Garrison trial and some of the things that came out of that. Did Garrison have something? Clay Shaw was put on trial in 1969. He was found innocent. But he also admitted that he was somebody named Clay Bertrand as an alias. He was seen in Clinton, Louisiana with Clay Bertrand, with Oswald. Witness said that he was at a party with Oswald discussing the assassination, yet this guy eventually gets off. Again, this is from a time standpoint. dig deeper into that. Was Oswald some sort of low-level intelligence operative being dangled to ferret out pro-communist leftist groups? I think that's his story. But it also creates, in effect, what the CIA called a legend to be used maybe against him later on. Now, was Oswald an FBI informant? I think there's good evidence of that. I really do. Because Abraham Bolin, who was the first black Secret Service agent, was actually a whistleblower on some of the misactivities of the Secret Service that we'll be looking at later. Bolin said that another plot against JFK was foiled in Chicago, which is true. Okay? And they were able to foil a plot against JFK, the Secret Service, that is, based upon an informant named Lee. That's coming from a Secret Service agent. An FBI teletype 5 days before the assassination explicitly describes what happened in Dallas. Then that disappeared. Did Oswald try to contact the FBI? Did Oswald believe he was infiltrating a plot? I really believe that's the best thing. And I think Oswald was thinking he was infiltrating a plot against the president. And he was trying to stop it. In effect, that maybe makes Oswald a hero instead of a villain he's made it out to be by history. Some suggest, well, the Oswald doubles. Look into this. I don't have time. Is that the same guy? There's two pictures of supposedly the same time. There's strong evidence to think that maybe one Oswald might be impersonating another. That's some of the crazy stuff that I don't have time to get to. But I think the document you're about to look at next, we talk about documents being released that might be explosive. Maybe the most explosive document been released about the Kennedy assassination was released in 1993. It came from the LBJ library. And basically it's a statement on tape of Hoover, the FBI director, talking to Lyndon Johnson after the assassination. Hoover's telling Johnson this: "We have up here the tape and photograph of the man who was at the Soviet embassy using Oswald's name." Oh, really? In September of '63, supposedly Oswald goes to Mexico City and tries to get a visa to leave the country. Was that really Oswald? Well, Hoover's saying it's not. That picture and the tape that we have do not correspond to this man's voice nor his appearance. In other words, it appears that there is a second person who was at the Soviet embassy down there. He's talking about the man who they had arrested. I mean, right there. I mean, that conversation, there's another point where they should have said, look, we've got a problem here. There's something more to this guy. Somebody's impersonating in Mexico City 2 months before the assassination, creating some sort of legend to make Oswald look like he's pro-Russia. Maybe we can go invade Castro in Cuba or whatever some people had in mind to do. This is an explosive document that I put up on the thing. Okay. Well, then there's other things as well. I tell you what, look, I'm at the point now. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to give you some other things and try to get through some stuff, but let's just take about a 2 or 3 minute break. And if you got any questions, you need to get up and stretch. I got more to go. There's plenty more to look at. You want to stretch for a minute, go to the restroom.